he's sort of using it to, create some drama and some controversy and get some views and all that kind of stuff is his goal with it all.
Welcome back to the Torque Motorsport Show, bringing you behind the scenes and under the hood of motorsports and video games. I'm your host, Billy, the COO here at Grease Monkey Games. We have Arran, the director.
Hey.
And we have Darren Kelly in the studio.
All right. Well, firstly, welcome to the studio, Darren. I think it's amazing. Like you, I saw on the app on Facebook that KeepItReet, you were coming to drive, and I was like, hell yeah, I got to get him into the studio. So I sent you a message, and you kindly responded. So here we are. So thank you for coming in. Firstly, awesome.
Well, thanks for having me. It's my first time in Melbourne, so it's very cool place. I've been to a lot of places around Australia, but never made it to Melbourne. So it's good to finally get here. And you guys being based here, it's awesome to finally come here and see this place. And great opportunity to sit down and have a chat.
First time in Melbourne, seriously. Wow.
Yeah. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, so I spent a lot of time as a kid coming over here. My dad had a house in Sunshine Coast, so came over here quite a bit. So I've been around Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, Brisbane, all that side a lot. Been to Sydney, done World Time Attack and some of the high-tech series. And where else have we been? Pretty much all that side. Never quite to Melbourne.
Never came down south.
Never to Perth. So, it was really Melbourne and Perth that were the two places left that I sort of want to see. So, it was great to come out here. And Jason's got a really cool thing going on with the KeepItReet series. And, he came over to D1NZ for the final round over there. And he's planning to do next season. So, that's going to be awesome to see his wagon over there competing. And while he was there, he offered us a opportunity to come over here and have some fun at his event. And definitely doesn't disappoint. It's a very fun event. It's a really good format. The thing that I really like about it is that if you lose a battle, you're not out of competition, which is usually the thing that sucks the most about competition. So. The format that they've eliminated qualifying, and it's really driven on everyone just going out and having fun and not putting so much pressure on not making a single mistake, because one mistake and you're on the trailer. So the way that they run it is that it's basically a random generator, and it selects who you'll battle in the top 16. If you lose that battle, you're still in. You then battle another person who lost their first battle. If you win that battle, you go on to the people that won their first battle. So you get the opportunity to lose a battle. You have to lose 2 before you're out of the competition. So even if you lose 1 in top 16, you can still work all the way to the final and still win the event. So really cool format. It sucks when you've worked weeks putting your car together or spending tons of money on your car, getting it ready for an event. You get there and even just something as simple as an axle breaks in your battle and you're out. So it's it's really cool, and it's really fun event on top of that.
Cool. And the first professional FD driver or professional
in
athlete
the studio.
In the studio, which is that right?
Yeah,
I think that's right. And we've had lots of drifters come around, but it's awesome to have you. Just off the back of KeepItReet, drifting. How did you actually go?
We went really good. Like, it was a really, really fun event. The funny thing, Jason brought me over for this event from KeepItReet. Ironically, we met in top 8, I believe it was. Lose track. There's so many battles, so much track time. It's crazy. And funny thing was, we ended up going one more time, and then he ended up going through to the finals. So that was quite a funny thing. He brought me over here. He also basically sent us home. So it's
but you were drifting in his car too. So.
Yeah. So he provided the car. He was helping us out all weekend, and ton of fun. Really fun event.
Yeah. Awesome. And that was the first time you drifted at Calder Raceway as well.
Yep. Yeah, so never been there before. That's a really fun track, a really cool layout. I'm a big fan of tracks that start fast and finish slow. It's a really good opportunity for, like, it really evens the field up, because it doesn't matter if you've got massive power and heaps of grip. You're slowing down throughout the whole course. So the slower or less grippy cars, less horsepower, still have the opportunity to catch up and stay with you. So whereas if it's reverse, you start slow and you finish fast, the big horsepower cars, big grip, they just drive away from you. So really cool, really fun track. And for a concrete wall track, it's surprising there's not a lot of carnage. Like, there's usually, you go to these, like, anything with a concrete wall destroys cars. But
you haven't seen us drift there.
You haven't seen our cars.
well, they definitely take a beating, but I think there was probably more contact, especially with my car. There was it seemed like everyone just wanted to crash into it rather than me hitting a wall. So it was definitely took a bit of a beating, but it was more, people just out there having fun and getting excited. So
they didn't take it easy on you? They
no,
weren't like,
definitely
no.
not. No,
They're like, it's not his car, we're going to just go for it.
Yeah, even Jason drove into my door and then left a big dent in it. So I guess he can't say anything. It's his car. And same thing. He's out there to have fun. And it was really cool event. Like, everyone was driving hard. Like, there's some really good battles, considering there's a big variation in cars. The car I was driving, factory gearbox, standard diff, axles, everything, some suspension, steering kit, bigger turbo, couple of, I think even the engine was a RB25 DE, and they just bolted a turbo on and tuned it. So it's
this one does.
Yeah. So it went surprisingly well. Like, it was really responsive, high compression motor, and just a bit of boost in there. And it was a really, really fun car to drive, and super reliable. Like, it for an unopened DE engine and factory gearbox. Like, I've got a terrible history with factory gearboxes, and this one actually went really well, and it lasted all weekends, no issues. The only problem I had was I broke 2 axles. So. One in competition and one when I was about to take a hot lap. So other than that, car ran just lap after lap after lap. So
you just jump in any car. I mean, you've driven everything from stock cars to highly modified V12s.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy the difference. I guess it all comes down to you and having seat time and being able to jump in the different vehicles and just know, car's doing this, I need to do this, I want to get closer, I need to do that. How did you get any time in the car before jumping into battles?
We did so it is Friday night drifts as well, and we managed to go to that, and it's so good for track time. Like, the event there just ran non-stop and just open track. You just come out, line up, run through the grid, and you just get so many laps. Like, there was a 5-hour session, and it just felt like we never stopped. Just to barely even needed to put fuel and tires in that car. It was so good. It's been a long time since I've been able to drive a car that didn't chew out tires in 2 laps. So to be able to just come back around, line up again, go again, and it's just so much fun. And really, really cool track. But I think the layout also helps with that. So you don't have huge or a big area where you're really bagging the tires and destroying them. So you just I think we were getting 14 laps or so to a set of tires, which is crazy. I think we used 6 tires throughout the whole weekend. So
I think someone's getting nostalgic. That's what I think. So Jason puts on an incredible event. We've been going to his events over the past couple of years, and it's just getting more popular and bigger and bigger. Like, on a Friday night, there were thousands of people there. It's crazy. No. Good on him for sure.
Yeah. That's what I was impressed by, how many people come out. It even ran late into the night, and there was a lot of people there at 10 o'clock at night. The thing was lined with people 5 deep. So it's really cool to see people getting involved and actually going to the events, and not sort of a lot of people would sometimes just sit at home and watch live streams or watch some social media stuff when it comes out, but it's become a challenge to get people to events these days, and he's doing a really good job of that.
He is for sure.
Yeah, and there's nothing compares to being at a drift event. Hearing the feeling and the smell and the noises and
Yeah.
Just everything about it's so like visceral and chaotic that you've got to go. You know, you can't just watch drifting on the screen.
No. And so like, especially for a track like that, you're literally right on the wall. Like you're standing almost. Well, there's the return lane where the cars come back down, and that's like a 2 meter gap.
Yeah.
So you're right in the action, and you're sort of like best for viewing, best for kids, family, everything to come out and just enjoy it.
One of the things I wanted to ask you actually relating to that is you've competed in so many different drift events these days. Yeah, from the smaller grassroots events all the way up to the top tier of drifting over at FD. What is the biggest difference in terms of how they ran and things like that? Because I imagine it's quite a lot.
Yeah. Well, everything's done so different. The cool thing about Jason's events is that it's all about having fun. The other end of the scale is like FD, where there's a lot of focus on winning or getting results and doing like, it's a very, very strict structure. There's no leniencies in rules, or like they're very, very cutthroat rules. It's as soon as you like go 5-minute call, for example, one of the worst things in drifting, because oftentimes you need to repair your car and it's probably going to take you 5 minutes and 5 seconds, but as soon as that clock hits 0, you're out. There's no buffer at all. Whereas in like other events that are more about having fun, it takes that element out of it, and they want you to be out on track. Everyone wants to just drive against each other and have fun, but both have their places. Like there's the professional competition needs to be like that, because people are investing a lot of money to be there. Everything needs to be clear cut. There needs to be strict rules, and everyone needs to know exactly when that rule becomes effective. So there's pros and cons to everything, but they're fun in their own ways, and I definitely love getting out and doing like driving low horsepower cars. I think a few years ago I went to Japan with Matty Hill and the Sideways Experience guys, and they asked me to come over and be an instructor for them. And after we'd finished the week at Ibisu, we got to spend a day there just driving 400 horsepower chasers and stuff, and it was just raining the whole day, but just enough to keep the track wet, and that was probably some of the most fun I've ever had drifting. So it's not necessarily the top end of the competition that we're always aiming for. It's just getting behind the wheel of anything and just having fun.
It's that feeling.
The
feeling of loss of traction.
And I think that definitely helps a lot to progress your driving. Like if you can jump in all different cars, like there's the pro end and the FD cars and everything are definitely very, very hard to drive. They're massive horsepower, huge amount of grip, very hard to be precise with. But then the opposite end of the scale is low horsepower, low grip, low steering angle. Like all those things help you to develop different skills. And then when you get back into the pro cars, then you have like a whole nother skill set. And it's something that I found, like the more I drive anything, the more comfortable I feel in everything. So it's I literally love just jumping in anything and driving.
Speaking of, do you mind going back a bit and telling about where you started? Like you're drifting in in Formula Drift. So where did you begin? And that'd be awesome to hear.
Yeah, so I began basically I got into drifting from just having street cars, and that sort of evolves into like the natural progression for those sorts of cars was to drifting. Track days back then were very few and far between, so it was like difficult to sort of get into the sport. But I followed D1NZ for years before I could like have a car capable of doing anything like that, and eventually just got into I think I had an R32 automatic Skyline that was a GDST, started building that up, done a manual conversion on it, started taking it to track days and doing getting out and doing something, kept modifying it, then DKM Fabrication actually said to me, I was working with one of the guys from there, and they said we should sort of get this thing a little bit more capable and start. You should do pro-am next year. And I was like, oh yeah, I'd definitely be keen to like get into that sort of like competition. So we like stripped the car out, put a new cage in it, got it up to spec a bit more. Really, it was just a pretty basic motor, but dog box, and then standard 5x100 or 5x1 diff and axles, just to add a little bit more strength in the rear end. And then we went out, ran half the season of Pro Sport the first year, and then committed to the second year and ended up winning Pro Sport for my first full year. So that basically got me into pro. At that point, we were like, okay, sweet, we should build something that's like dedicated to pro, and that's when we built the R34. So then ran that for 3 years or so. Ended up winning the championship my second full year in pro. So that was like an ultimate goal. I'd set a goal of sort of top 10 for the first year, which we finished I think 8th in the championship, and then the next year I was like, all right, let's get serious. And ended up winning the championship that year. And then following that we spent took about 18 months, but we like got the R35 and built that into what it is today.
One of my favorite cars. Absolutely rips that. So
yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, so it's been a lot to refine that car. It's obviously a very, very unique car and at its time, I think there was 2 others in the world, so there was nothing to go off. Much like the Aston now.
You got nothing to go off.
Yeah. So it's basically
sensing a theme.
Typical builds.
Yeah. That's sort of what drifting's about, like being unique, being creative, and sort of doing something that, to me anyway, is doing something that other people haven't done. And when you make it competitive and it is successful, then it's super rewarding at the end of the day. So that's something with the 35 to see where it started and where it's finished is it's a huge success to me for sure.
With the Aston, obviously you can't just go out and buy drift parts for it like you can for any S chassis. What has been the major developments from the start of the build? You're like, okay, we've got the Aston. What are we going to do with it? To really fine tuning it and seeing the results. Like I remember, was it Orlando, seeing you making some adjustments to the suspension, and you really kind of felt a bit more comfortable in the car. So take us through that kind of the journey of the Aston, and where it is now. Yeah,
that's a huge challenge with any car starting out, but something that's never been done. It's been a massive team effort so we originally partnered with the Heart of Racing on this project, and the idea was to use all resources within the Heart of Racing to create something to take to FD and develop. And so the guys, their own engineers had built this car from start to finish and designed literally everything about it. And this was during the COVID period where we couldn't travel, and so I had to help remotely and try to figure out what do we want the car to do, how do we achieve that, and then they've drawn it all in CAD and got it all operational, and then fabricated all the parts to put this thing together. So it was a very big project, and something that it's going to take a lot of time to develop. Like we knew it was going to be a challenge from the beginning, but that's why we did it. And it's definitely come a long way. It was for how good it was out the box to what it is now has just been about refining. We haven't changed much from what the original design was. It's more about just once the car's operational, then you can go through setups and figure out what sort of setup the car wants. And the round one was a huge push to try to get the car finished for. I went over about 2 weeks early, and it was a big challenge. We were we don't know for sure if we're going to make round one, because just hold ups from other resources and stuff that just everything taking longer than expected, and like the dyno, the engine was on the dyno probably a week before round one. So and that's
crazy
in Atlanta, and we're in Phoenix.
Oh, in
so yeah, so it's like 30 hours away as well. And so yeah, they managed to get that done. So 2 of the guys were over there with the engine, getting that tuned and everything. We're in Phoenix with the car and trying to get all that stuff finished. And as soon as the engine got there, then it was kind of like 24-hour shifts trying to get the thing done. And yeah, it was a huge push, and the guys there are hugely dedicated. Like they were like, for me, it was like our first time really working together physically, and you're always kind of like, are these guys kind of guys who are going to like push 100% and do whatever it takes to get the car done, or are we going to finish at 5 o'clock and go home and come back tomorrow? Luckily, they're guys that just push through the night and just don't stop. So that was the only way that the car got done in time for round one. But yeah, then like we didn't obviously get much time to test after that. We got to throw the car around at a little local track in Phoenix for about 2 hours or so, and probably only did about 8 laps. But it drifted, and we were like, all right, let's go. Load her up, let's go to Long Beach.
Went to Long Beach, one of the scariest FT tracks.
Yeah,
Jesus, yeah. I could not imagine.
And but yeah, like straight off the bat, like we were definitely low on horsepower at that point, and we just didn't have the chance to get the car back on the dyno to because once the engine went in the car, it was meant to go back on the dyno and then tune it again, see where the horsepower's at in the car and everything. But yeah, we were about around 600 horsepower or something at round one. So in comparison to everyone else, it's very low.
Pushing double.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. So not easy, but we qualified, and that was the ultimate goal for that. And the car felt really good. We went away from that with notes to improve on for round two, which we did. Came back and had more horsepower for round two, a few changes to setup and suspension, and we ordered some more shocks and things that we knew could be better, which had then gone in after Atlanta, before Orlando, which was where we really saw the transformation of the car to Orlando was best it was for that whole time, and started to come alive. So we've kept building on it from there, and it's getting better and better. We've now got we increased the horsepower of the original engine, which was never sort of designed to be run for the competition. That was sort of that was meant to be to fire the car up, do a little bit of testing, get all the electronics working, and sort of program everything, and then switch to the built engine, which is the stroked 6.6 litre with cams and a whole bunch of headwork and all the normal build for a high horsepower motor, which is now done in the car, and that's about 1,050 horsepower. So nice. We're up there where we want to be now, and getting the suspension, steering, and everything dialed in, and we've Seattle round was definitely by far the best the car's been feeling to drive. Unfortunately, we had a little clutch issue which sort of knocked us out of the round.
You welded itself together.
Yeah. So
not what you want.
No. But you're expecting a lot of the parts and everything, and those things happen, and it's just something that we've improved again, and hopefully we don't have another issue like that. I know the clutches are capable. I've run them in my 35 for years, and it's just about figuring out which combination of plates and everything that you're going to run to suit the car. And obviously we're running a lot of grip and everything up there, so it's a lot of stress on all the drivetrain. So, but yeah, feels good, and we're going to get in a little test before Utah round in about 3 weeks, and I think the car will be pretty dialed in. Hopefully we can get some good results for the next 2 rounds.
You've driven that car previously in grip racing, is that right?
Not that car exactly, but so that's a GT4 chassis, and what I was racing was the GT3, which is also back in the States now. and they race in the IMSA series. There's a 2-class GT3 series in there now. So there's GTD and GTD Pro. So endurance racing always has a combination of 2 drivers. You've got in GTD Pro, there's 2 pros. In GTD, it's a pro and a amateur. So they're running a 2-car team up there now, and the car that I was driving is up there in the Pro series.
And that's with the Heart of Racing? Is that,
yep.
Yeah, cool. Tell us about that. I know a little bit, just not a lot.
Yeah. It's we originally met the Heart of Racing. We were doing some ride days, and they came down and went for some laps with a big group of friends that they'd come down to New Zealand with. And we ended up they ended up saying, do you want to come up to Daytona for they were racing in the 24-hour Daytona race. And I was like, definitely, like there's a track I've always wanted to go to. And you can't turn down a chance to go to any kind of racing. So went up there and had a awesome time. They were coming back to New Zealand a few months later, and basically we started a partnership for my drift program, which was the R35 and the R34. Ended up running 2 seasons in D1, and then we were like, we should, like, as the world started to free up a little bit, we put a plan together for coming over to FD. So that's when we all got talking with their team in the US and starting to piece together this build of this car. It was sort of the team owner's idea originally, and his son, and we when they threw out, like, what do you think an Aston would drift like? And I was thinking, like, like the street car or like the race car, because the race car doesn't drift very well. It's something we found out pretty early on when I started racing. So just take a step back on that. I started during New Zealand's lockdown and COVID. Our borders were shut for quite a long time. They ended up staying in New Zealand and brought a GT3 Aston down there. One of their drivers was down there at the time. So they were like, he's going to continue to drive down there. He needs an amateur driver, which, because I'm not a circuit racer, was classed as an amateur driver for circuit racing. So we partnered up and went GT3 racing in New Zealand, and ended up winning the North Island Series, the South Island Series, and the National Championship. So it was a very good year.
Sensing a bit of a trend.
So you're in the wrong motorsport? Is that
Yeah, it's something. It was a very big crash course in learning, because it was something like, originally when they were like, would you be interested in being the amateur driver? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And then the car turns up, or the car's on its way, and I'm starting to look into all the details of the car and how, like, extensive the builds are of these things. And I was like, well, this is a pretty serious car. And we once it landed, I was like, oh yeah, this is sort of something that you, like, jump into at the time, and you're like, oh yeah, this is, like, keen to do anything. And then it turns up and you're like, well, this is the real deal. This is a serious piece of equipment. So hopefully I can actually drive it. And not really knowing, had never driven on a slick tire, had never driven with, like, aero and all that before. So I was like, hopefully it's something I can sort of adapt to and learn. And fortunately I like felt really comfortable in the car from like straight away. And I had a really good coach in Alex, who was my co-driver. And from there we just sort of, like, you have so much access to data, and like everything you do as a driver gets logged into the computer, and you just see every single pedal input or steering movement or brake pressure and everything, like, which overlays onto a GPS diagram of the track, so you know exactly the point that you're doing something, and
where they tell you you're lifting off too early or whatever.
Or you're braking too early or too late, or not bleeding the brake enough, or like trail braking is a big thing, and all of these things add up to tenths of seconds or even less than that. So it's not like you can say, oh, you're losing a second here. It's you're losing half a tenth there and half a tenth there, and at the end of the lap it's half a second. So it's trying to refine those little things that are really, really challenging, and trying to figure out your braking points, but not braking too late where the car, you then have to slow it up too much to pull it up for the corner, or there's just so much technique to it, and it was something totally new to learn, but really, really cool. Like I really enjoyed it, and it's having Alex was like the best thing, because you could just overlay everything onto his, and you can say, this is an area that you should focus on. It's not like you're just taking stabs at things, trying to figure out like, where can I be faster? It's not like you're just looking at someone else's lap time and saying they're going around the track faster. At least I sort of knew where I wasn't going fast enough, or where I could improve on. So
how long did it take you to get up to speed?
Well, we didn't have much time. So the car landed about, I think it was about a week or so before our first race. And
jeez, you really there is a pattern.
Not much prep time and winning,
and new cars.
It seems to be working. But yeah, so we only got about one test day before the first race, which was the bottom of the South Island as well. So car arrives, see if you're fit, go drive it, and then go race it. So it was a pretty a lot of pressure on the first event. But the great thing about the Heart of Racing is there's no pressure to go out there and win. Like they're just like, it's just about having fun, and it's not like the normal, like, if you don't win, you're out. Like they want you to progress and learn from things and just have fun doing it. So
sounds awesome.
Yeah, and we did actually end up winning our first race, which was a huge surprise to me. Like I'd just done the best that I could, and the race actually ended up finishing, I think, we finished first, and the next car was like 10th of a second behind us. So it was like bumper to bumper over the finish line. So, and that's at the end of a 3-hour race, which blows my mind that something that
can come down to that.
Yeah, can go for that long and come down to a 10th of a second.
It's basketball.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I imagine drifting would help like quite a lot. Just having that skill set in the car handling. I think I saw a video of like Sebastian Vettel jumping in like an old Mercedes or something, and it's like the young drivers trying to drift this car, and then Sebastian jumps in and just does it. You know, having that. Yeah. And I imagine it works both ways. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I think that was the thing that helped me the most was just knowing the limitation of the car before it got there, and sort of feeling like when the car, because drifting is all about feel, and you drive off the seat. And with this car, this car's very, very unforgiving. As soon as it sort of lets go, like all the aero goes off it, the slick tire lets go. It's not a linear grip level. As soon as that tire lets go, it's not like a drift car where you can just keep sliding. It just lets go, and you've got like literally no time to react. So that's where that was a huge amount of like, that helped me massively to learning the car, because I could feel when the car was at its limit, and you can feel like as the car sort of rotates, and that's before it's about to let go. So having that experience is sort of something that I think helped me progress the most. And on top of that, with all the data and Alex and everything else, just allowed me to sort of progress a lot quicker than I probably would have without that.
That's amazing. Have you ever thought about going into rally next?
Yeah, well, I've always wanted to do rally. I ended up driving a cross car. So Hayden Patton brought a bunch of these down to New Zealand, and the Jacks Ridge Rally had a special stage which they ran in the end of 2020, and I went down and done that, and that's like a totally new level of fun. Like I was like, it's like drifting and it's like circuit racing combined. You're going as fast as you possibly can on a gravel course and driving on the absolute
We've
edge.
been talking about doing a cross rally game in the future. So there you go, tip.
That would be cool, yeah. It's,
inside.
Cool. It's a lot of fun, and fun, ironically enough, I end up winning that event as well. And
Jesus.
So that was fun. But I'd love to jump in like a full blown rally car. That would be a goal. That and a supercar would be my two like ultimate drives I'd love to do. even just to get, like, go out and cut a lap, not even racing, just to get behind the wheel of those two things would be my
I'm
ultimate
sure
goal.
someone will trade with you. Like you let them drift in your car, and they'll let you rally in theirs. I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I quite a while ago I lent one of my cars to Shane Van Gisbergen, so maybe he could hit him up about maybe giving me a go in his car now.
Cool.
I'd love to. It looks super fun, but also like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, not as crazy as it was back in the day, but yeah, it makes sense, right? It's like drifting also has its roots in rally as well, and grip racing.
Yeah. The drifting originated from basically racing in the hills of Japan as fast as you can, and they started sliding the corners and being able to go faster, like being able to turn the car in earlier and get on the throttle earlier. It's how drifting originated. So there's definitely some roots there, but yeah, it's just like I said before, like the skill sets that you learn from all these different disciplines of motorsport all like come together with each other. Like the rally was, I think, the same as the circuit racing. Like it had, it's just being able to jump in things and feel comfortable very early on, and then you can work out the limitations of the car because you know when it's going to really go wrong. Not to say that you don't get it wrong, because we definitely still make mistakes and can turn bad, but it just sort of, you're not spending all that time trying to figure out where the limit of the car is, and then like you sort of can feel that quite early. So that's something that drifting's helped me with massively for sure.
What do you drive day to day?
Mainly a Nissan Navara. MP300, yeah.
Tow vehicle.
Yeah. And it's sort of our road rules in New Zealand, much like here, is quite strict. You can't really drive too modified cars anymore. Like that's kind of what's changed since when I started drifting to now, is like the road rules and everything have changed a lot. And you can't really get around driving like super low, slammed out R32s anymore. So
shame.
Yeah, I know, it's the good old days. But now it's plus comfort. I do have I have driven my R32 up the road, and it's not a luxury drive. So I don't know if I'd want to be doing that anymore either. So
you have something that you'd really like to build, or do you have something that you're building at the moment? Like when you have time, which I'm sure is never.
Yeah, it's lacking time at the moment. I don't really. Well, there's heaps of things I'd love to build. Not many things in the works at the moment. I'm mainly restoring my R34 now and just trying to get it back to like a really nice, presentable level. Won my first championship in that car, so that's something I'd sort of never want to get rid of. And and I had to sell my very first R32 to build the 34, and that was the one that I won the Pro Sport Championship in, and that's still a regret now. I'm like, man, I wish I had that now. Had R32, R34, and R35 that had won championships, and that would be cool. So now I'm kind of like, I can never sell that 34, never sell the 35. And hopefully can keep growing on that and keep some, at the end of the day, have some pretty cool cars in a little museum.
So if you're watching, whoever's got Darren's car, he wants it back.
I tried. It did get in a crash, and I don't know if it got repaired or not. So I want to find out about it.
Yeah. You get some follow-up tasks after the podcast.
Yeah. Investigate what happened to the 32. Somebody said it was that after the crash, it did get put back together and it's running again. So be keen. But everything like Japanese cars are worth so much money now. That's one thing that's changed a lot as well, is just the price of everything has just gone through the roof, and like how hard they are to get now. So
well, someone just stole mine the other day. So
shit.
I had my Seal 80 stolen.
Oh no!
The night before we had a drift event, and I had it parked at the front of my house. Went to sleep. Woke up 5 or 6 hours later. It was gone.
Yeah,
devastating.
Yeah, that sucks. We've been fortunate not to lose a car before, but something that we've had was the R35 when we were building that. The workshop got broken into and a whole bunch of stuff stolen. It's like the most it sucks because you've put so much work into something and then it's gone, and you're like,
I think the worst thing was those things kind of happen, and I can get upset about it. But it had been in lockdown for so long, and I was at the tuning shop, and it didn't have a trigger kit, so it couldn't get over a certain amount of revs, and we finally got it fixed. I literally hadn't drifted it for 2 years, and I took it out for an event about a month ago, and it was amazing. I enjoyed it so much. I love that car. And then it was stolen. So at least I got to drive it the last time, but it was just crap that it was locked up for so long. And we were locked up as well. So it was a double whammy. But
yeah, that car, like when you first bought it, it didn't have a brake booster in it, no power steering.
No power steering. It was
we took it out
scary as hell.
Day. It was scary as F to drive, but it was fun. But it was lucky it didn't hit the wall that first day.
Yeah, for sure.
Because wearing it just kind of like, just try to keep it on the road.
It had like all the panels were straight. The dash didn't have a crack in it. It was like it was so nice. It was so nice that I started to not want to drift it. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, it should be in a museum here, seriously. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, they're really good cars. Like S chassis, one of the best cars in the world for drifting. Like they've just came off the factory floor, ready to slide, and obviously all the development that's gone into them has just made them like the best chassis in the world for drift. And I've got an S13, and that's like low horsepower. That's something that's like one of my favorite cars to just like drive on the absolute edge, and it just. Yeah, they just do everything you want them to. Like that's one car I'd probably love to build, would be like an S15. Go down a different path. Usually we're always trying to do something different and trying to make them competitive and the best that they can be. But I'd love to do something like an S15 that already is refined and see how good we could make that, and then take that to sort of a pro level. But it's all time and money and everything else.
The rest of it.
Yeah.
What do you think about the new Z?
It's pretty cool. I like it, yeah. And like Chris Forsberg built one for FT.
It looks mad.
Yeah, his one looks really cool, and like it performs really well as well. Like that's one car that to come straight off the factory floor and be turned straight into a drift car and run in a pro competition is a huge task. And for him to go out and do that and to be that competitive, it's definitely pretty good.
That's number one, right? That's not the first version of that car is that version? Yeah. Crazy. And and it looks cool. Like shape of it, headlights, everything. It looks cool for a modern car. Yeah. You jumping back into competition. You were recently at D1NZ.
Yeah.
In the 35. Yeah.
It was cool to finally get back there. This season's been tough because we've had so much going on overseas, but also the D1NZ season got pushed so far back, so it's been tough to try to make everything align, and for us to be in New Zealand when the events are on or not flying out the next day. Bay Park's around that I always love doing, and set it on the calendar. I was like, this one we're going to be there for sure. And it was a fun event, and one of my favorite tracks in New Zealand for sure.
Yeah. And there was some controversy. I only saw kind of vaguely. I didn't dive too deep in because I'm like, this is going to be trouble. But it was a battle against Luke Fink. Is that right? Yeah. Aaron, did you see much about this?
I had Michael, who's friends with Luke, tell me a bit about it, but I didn't. I haven't seen it.
We'll have to have Luke on as well. And we'll get back.
Well, he's put his side out.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're keen to hear from your side.
Yeah, it's something that I haven't really talked too much on the subject in a public format, but I've talked to tons of people off social media, and even Luke himself straight after the event. Like from what he said at the event, it was he's sort of using it to create some drama and some controversy and get some views and all that kind of stuff is his goal with it all, and it probably exaggerated a few things, but it was a lot simpler than what it was sort of made out to be. It's just something that happens when it was pretty decent contact to the front wheel. Initially, his video didn't show that, so everyone sort of it sort of blew up straight away with people assuming that I guess he led people to believe that it was intentional.
Then the drone camera came out, is it? Afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, so the drone shows it pretty clearly. It's just the angle of everything and the point of the track, and there's a lot of factors to it. That point of the track, I was at quite big angle. He had slowed up, and he's in an R32 with 500 horsepower or something, and it's not. I think he was having problems with it, so he ended up shallowing up, going very far to the inside. I filled the outer zone, and then came away from that slightly early, which put me on a tighter line on the approach to the switch, and that's the point where we sort of came together. He tried to avoid me, sort of went back to the right, and then he had to turn back to the left to obviously keep angle in the car and not go off the inside of the track. At that point, he hit my front tyre. It's at a point of the track where I'm about to switch back in the other direction, get back onto the wall. And so my left hand's on the shifter, my right hand is kind of like loosely holding the steering wheel. And if you watch my my in-car video from qualifying the night before, you sort of see my hand goes like full open palm on the front face of the wheel. It's sort of almost right at that point, and he hits my front wheel. It sort of spins the wheel through my, like, not through my hand because I was barely holding it, but that creates a big turn to the right. Then I grab it, pull it back to so go from the shifter back to the wheel, pull it the other way, go back to full lock, and by that point it's already rotated. So what he sort of made out that it was like he slowed down some really, really short, like 1 second or so video out to, like 16 seconds, and that sort of made it look like it was a lot worse or a lot different to how it really happened. But he came over to me after the event and sort of said, like, it's nothing against me. He's like, wanted to shake my hand and everything. And he's like, it's just to create some drama and have some fun and like having a laugh and all this. But it sort of got a little bit out of hand, I think, online. Like I think
it was the audio that maybe.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Funny thing about the audio, if you go to the video and you speed it up a little, I don't know if that audio is actually from that video.
Really?
Because it's pretty easy to figure that one out. There's you speed the video up sort of 1 point, I think on YouTube or something, you can speed it up to like 1.75 times or something. Audio goes normal, the video is still very much slow motion, so it's definitely not the complete accurate audio from that clip. So
yeah, some inside knowledge.
But yeah, like it definitely blew up. Like it was a big thing online. That was he said to me that was his aim with it, was to try to create some drama and sort of bring some of the, I guess, boxing mentality into drifting and try to like get people excited about stuff. And yeah, it's something I haven't really responded too much. I flew out to FD the next day, so like literally left Tauranga, drove straight back to the workshop, unpacked everything, went to the airport and drove and flew to the States. So I didn't have much time to sort of sit around arguing with people online. But yeah, like I have talked to a lot of people offline, including Luke, and yeah, he's free to have his opinion, but yeah, it's something I'm just as against as he is about, like throwing a battle intentionally. And like a lot of people initially sort of thought that he didn't hit me and I'd spun on purpose, and I was like, well, that wouldn't make any sense at all, because if a lead car spins without contact, then the lead car loses. Like it's a 0 for the lead car, so that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, there's a lot to it. It's very, very, like, one day maybe make a video about all the facts about it, and it's pretty clear when you actually know all the evidence and everything, that like how quickly I would have had to react, or like the point of contact to the point of over rotation was like 1.5 seconds or something. It's like to actually think about it,
decision,
process it, and decide what to do, and then do it in that time is like, you'd have to be superhuman. So yeah, it's just the fact that like very dragged out videos can make things look a lot different. So, but yeah, it's
that's racing.
Yeah. There's always going to be different opinions on things, and it's just how it's portrayed can be very, very misleading sometimes.
Yeah. And so Formula Drift, it's 2 rounds left. It's kind of the big one. Two tracks you haven't driven. I'm assuming you kind of haven't driven any of the tracks in the US. Is that right?
No. Our first time driving almost every track has been at FD for competition, and one of the toughest things is that FD's rule is that you get 12 laps maximum, no matter what. If you could do 50 laps, it doesn't matter. Like 12 is the limit. Once you've done your 12, you're parked up. So there's very minimal amount of practice, and which is good and forces you to really be on your game and sort of come prepared to quickly make changes to the car and set it up and get it dialed in to the best you can. The toughest thing is that all the other teams are going there with that information from last year, or like some of them have been doing it for 20 years. So there's some guys with like turn up, roll the car out of the trailer and it's dialed in, and they'll make some small changes and everything. Whereas we're still learning. We're trying to figure out the tracks. We're trying to figure out the car and everything. So it's a big challenge, but it's still been heaps of fun. And Utah's a track I'm really looking forward to, because that for the first time is going to be a track that no one's been to, no one's driven. So that'll sort of even the playing field and see who is good at making those fast changes and getting their cars dialed in quickly. So
how much like per track setup are you dialing based on the banks, the distance to the first corner, like the speed of the track? Like how much is actually changing between, I imagine you're documenting everything just like between events and tracks. But yeah, like could you walk us through a bit of how your team and yourself are thinking about each of the rounds and the track types to dial in the car and the suspension and that sort of thing? Yeah, it's
we always sort of go to the track with a base setup and where we know the car is and how it's going to drive, and slightly less grip than what we know we're going to want, and then try to start dialing the car in from there. Because if you turn up with an over-gripped car, then you can't figure out what's wrong with the car or where it can improve. So we usually start, like, it's not much, but like you start with it a little bit looser, and then as you feel the car's doing what you want it to be doing, then you start to add some more speed and more grip and everything. And that's what a lot of guys do. You'll notice that a lot of the cars aren't super fast in practice. They're sort of getting their cars right for qualifying, trying to make them like super drivable. Qualifying, you don't have to be fast. It's not, even the judges say, like, we're not measuring you on how quickly you get through the course. It's down to who does it the smoothest and the most accurate. So that's sort of our main focus, is turning up, making it drive as the best that it can, and then start putting the grip into it and doing some chase runs and seeing where we're at. And surprisingly, like, it's been pretty good. Like, for a car that's never been done, and like all the geometry in the rear end is all just designed by the Heart of Racing engineers. Like, they've made the whole lot. So for it to be like, we never feel like we're struggling for grip or that that we're getting left behind or anything like that. So it's it's a good starting point, and then we work on it from there. But each track's different. The bank tracks is something that was probably the biggest thing for me to learn. That was like Orlando, probably, that would be the one with the steepest bank on it. Very different to driving on flat, even car setup wise. So tons of grip on the bank, and then you come off and you're like on just the flat, and you're like, I really want more grip on the flat, but I don't think we can put more grip on the bank because the car just wants to straighten up. And what we've sort of learnt from some other teams, they set their cars up very, very different, like a staggered setup, maybe a bigger spacer on one side, preload,
really? Wow.
like preload on the sway bars, so that one side's loaded, and then they come off the bank and it's already pushing that side into the ground. It's like a sprint car setup almost. And because when you're on the bank, and same thing for even Seattle and things like that, which isn't a super steep bank, but the difference between the bank and the flat can be massive if somebody's really got their car dialed in and fast on the bank and fast on the flat. That's where you like get left behind. It's not like, usually you're good on the bank, you come off, and then they'll be able to drive away from you. So that's where we'll keep progressing and trying to learn it. But it's things you can't predict. You've got to just trial and go through setup changes and see what works and what doesn't work, and that's just the time-consuming thing.
So Darren, you've got a pretty colourful history. So where's the future for you now? So what's obviously you're thinking about FD next season, and you're going to be drifting in D1 going into the future as well. Yep.
Yeah, like I'd something that we try to, like, as much as you can, keep as open as possible. That's sort of what's allowed us to do so much, like being able to say yes to this or yes to that. And while we're committed to certain things, we're not limited by them, or we sort of have the freedom to add something else in there. It's made a pretty busy schedule, but it's allowing us to do some pretty cool things. So that's kind of like where we try to keep things. Ultimate goals are, like, long-term goals is to keep with FD, keep with D1 and Z. I'd love to do those two full-time, as long as schedules sort of don't clash. They do run opposite seasons, being summer New Zealand, winter US, and then they switch over and FD starts for the summer up there. So we're hoping that, when schedules are released for 2023, that they'll miss each other and we can do full season of both. But at the same time, I'd love to be, like, doing more events, like in Australia, like something like I've wanted to come back here. I think the last time was 2018 that I came for World Time Attack. So it was a long time between being up here, and it's such a close place for me to travel to. And there's so much drifting going on here that I'd love to come up here and just even do the fun events and have some more, do some more of the KeepItReet series, and keep drifting fun, because it's the competitive side can get pretty demanding and be sometimes stressful more than fun. So, and
you've got a new young family, and they're supportive, and you're traveling. Are they traveling with you and stuff?
Yeah, as much as they can. They're over here this weekend.
That's awesome.
So this has been, like, that's the cool thing about doing the more relaxed events, and just being able to like have them around and it not be so full on all weekend. Like FD is a really tough one, because you've got for us, sometimes we're flying into somewhere. The US is crazy big place, and it's already a 13 hour flight from New Zealand to LA, and then sometimes from LA to New York, another 8 hours or 9 hours. So it's too hard with our, like, our son's only he's going to turn 1 in about 2 weeks. So he comes with a lot of baggage. So it's tough to get around with them at the moment, but they came up for round 1 for Long Beach, and they're going to come up for Irwindale, and we try to do as much as we can and have them around as much as we can. And then when I'm traveling by myself, or me and my spotter go up for all the other rounds, but we go for shorter periods, and we'll be back as quick as we can and things like that. So it's it's tough. It's definitely probably the hardest part of doing, like, FD or any time you're competing internationally is time away from family. So that's the tough bit.
It's probably a good spot to wrap up, do you think? Awesome. Darren, cool. Where can people find you if they want to follow you on socials?
Social media, Darren Kelly.116. Facebook's Darren Kelly Drift, same as YouTube and everything else. So that's it.
Cool. So thanks for coming in. It's been great to show you around. And if you're here again, we would love to actually go out drifting with you. Would be amazing.
See what our cars can actually do.
Just give us some distance. You're not running doors with us. But no, it'll be awesome to have you in again. And I guess I did want to ask you. So the Aston Martin, we want to get the Aston Martin into the game. So basically, do you have any inroads into that relationship? Do you do you speak to them at all? And
something I have been working on, because I'd love to see it in there. And it's more so, like, we've had the conversation. It's probably more about the amount of stuff we've had going on recently that it's sort of something I need to come back to. But I'm pushing for it for sure, and we'll see what we can do. Hopefully, release it in there soon.
Because it's an amazing car, and we'll do it justice. So, because we all love it. So
and it's a lot of people love it. I'd love for people to be able to jump in the game and experience it as well. And The 35 people loved that. So I'm on your side about it. So we'll see what we can do for sure.
Awesome.
Thanks
Darren
for the
Kelly,
visit.
thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.